We're recording. Start.
Yay!
Hello.
Hello, and welcome to the No One Asked You podcast. For this particular series, I am joined by my wonderful co-host, ThatDarnKitteh. Kitty and I are both going into this story completely new with almost no knowledge of the story or world.
Each segment, we intend to cover what happens in each new chapter and discuss our experiences along the way. This is Mistborn Abridged, a blind read-through, and today we will be covering Chapter 2.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Excellent.
you better say so.
Kitty, before we start Chapter 2, I believe in the last chapter you said you had gotten the audiobook and have been enjoying it. So can you tell us what your experience with the audiobook for Mistborn has been so far?
So Michael Kramer narrates the audiobook, which is really great for me because as a crazy Wheel of Time fan, Michael Kramer narrates the male part of the Wheel of Time series. So I was excited to hear what he was like on this one. And he's actually quite different, in my opinion. You can see the different writing styles through the different performances. He's interpreted, or the way that he reads seems a bit less upbeat than Wheel of Time. Because Wheel of Time, one of the criticisms people have is it's very childish, maybe a bit too idealistic or a bit too shallow, whatever. Maybe that's what's coming through. But Mistborn, actually, the way that Michael Kramer is reading it sounds like he's reading it in the mist. That's what I'm experiencing. Maybe it's just me. I don't care. It's what I'm experiencing. We're discussing our experiences. So that's what I'm enjoying. I'm enjoying using it as a second read through or a third read through. So I like experiencing the chapter in my head first before I go and listen to it. So that's what I'm doing. I would recommend it though, the audiobook, if you cannot get through the reading.
In your analyses of these books, has there been anything that you've interpreted differently from your read through and your stream of consciousness to his reading it to you?
Nothing too drastic. The only thing that, like in terms of imagination, I did not pick up on Kelsier sounding different to Dixon. He apparently has an accent, according to Michael Kramer. I think it comes from, it seems a little bit Irish or a little bit Scottish or something. I'm not saying comes from there, but I'm just saying he gives him an accent. So that's quite an interesting thing. So it'll be interesting for me as I read more, whether I give that accent in my head.
It's interesting because I hadn't read an accent into him either.
Me neither.
Like from the words used to the punctuation, I didn't get anything like that from. Did you mean Dachshund?
Dachshund, sorry, Dixon. Dachshund, yes.
Whom we learn about in this chapter,
yes.
Which is quite exciting. And speaking of, Dixon v. Dachshund, are we saying our names correctly? Is it Vin? Is it Kelsier?
Yes. And all of them seem to be, we've gotten them right. Although some of them some of the ones I would need to listen to again, like some of the more obscure ones that are just mentioned once or twice. But Kelsier, definitely right. Yeah, Dachshund, of course, is quite easy. And yes, Vin, quite easy as well. Luthadel, yes, we say it correctly. Yeah, I'll be sure to note any differences we have as we go along. Like, for instance, the accent.
Wonderful.
Read into Sir Dachshund.
Great. Then, without any further ado, we have a pre-chapter to read. If men read these words, let them know that power is a heavy burden. Seek not to be bound by its chains. The Terrace prophecies say that I will have the power to save the world. They hint, however, that I will have the power to destroy it as well. What are the Terrace prophecies?
Exactly. Tell us. And also, who are you? Like, obviously we will find out who this person is in the prophecies, because this is the person who is prophesied, clearly.
Right. I mean, this is the guy from the prologue pre-chapter blurb, right?
Yeah. And it does also, it suits him as well, because this is okay. So yes, the person we have experienced, the people we've experienced, both of them seem to speak about being able to destroy things. And we have the one with the armies and whatever, that guy who we thought was maybe another guy. That's what I'm saying. I'm pretending there are two people. Okay. This person says this does go along with the first person we encountered, because he goes that power is a heavy burden. The more arrogant person, that was the one with the armies, seemed less to think about. Would never call it a burden.
Right. It's
Do you
his
see what I'm
right.
picking
His
up?
right to. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's what he desires. I suspect this person, who seems to be a lot more anxious, doesn't want the pressure. I mean, between the prologue, where people are calling him the hero of ages, their savior, and that he doubted himself, and now that he's thinking he has the power to destroy the world. But if this is the hero who lost, if this is the flipping of that role in storytelling, where the villain wins and the hero loses, would you consider the hero losing to be actively destroying the world? Like, I would consider it being failing to save the world, not necessarily
Yes.
destroying it.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it's that mindset that leads into his failure, if I'm correct in my theory thus far, based off of, like, half remembered bits of knowledge from the Brandon Sanderson writing lectures.
Yeah.
The other thing I want to talk about in this pre-chapter part is the topic of prophecies, because I know prophecies can be a very dangerous topic. Unwinds destiny. Prophecies scream to me a very different kind of magic than allomancy, than metallurgy. This idea that you eat metal to build up your mana and cast a spell. Prophecy strikes me very much more as this power granted by the gods sort of a thing. I think it was Cassandra in Greek prophecy, in the Greek stories, who was cursed with the gift of prophecy, but no one would believe her. And then I come from a lot of George R.R. Martin, who has a lot of prophecy in the Game of Thrones books, but he has said, he likes to have his prophecies unfold in unexpected ways. So where did your imagination go in integrating the topic of prophecy into this world, Kitty?
Yeah, I have the same view of prophecy in terms of it's not a spell to be cast. That is just, okay, Kiddeh used prophecy, and picked up what's going to happen. It seems a deeper, at the same time, it's deeper and more all encompassing than just any single use of magic. I'll always bring it back to Wheel of Time. Sorry, but I will.
Please.
Wheel of Time has many prophecies. It has several prophecies in different cultures that will kind of converge on the same person. And some people find prophecy tropish, like, oh, the prophecies are fulfilled, and they make memes about it, right? Yes, I understand that, because there's a lot of fantasy that has prophecy, but prophecy has a place in story writing, because it's what usually happens, and what seems to happen in normal human culture, is we actually do have prophecies, and they are very flowery language, very hard to interpret. Anything can be the fulfillment of prophecy, because it's just story. It's just flowery language. And that's exactly what happens in Wheel of Time, where prophecy is not what people think it is. They think that certain things have been fulfilled when they haven't. So a well-written prophecy in a fantasy story is like George R.R. Martin says, where it's like it unfolds in an uncertain way that you wouldn't have initially read into it. So I want to read these prophecies. I want I want a pre-chapter to be like Wheel of Time, where Wheel of Time would sometimes give you it'll start a book with like an excerpt of prophecy. But no, we're just getting someone's diary, which I'm making a joke out of it, but it's I love it.
All right, then. I think that's all I can think of to speak on prophecies for the moment. Let's get into the chapter, shall we? In Kelsier's opinion, the city of Luthadel, seat of the Lord Ruler, was a gloomy sight. Most of the buildings had been built from stone blocks, with tile roofs for the wealthy and simple peaked wooden roofs for the rest. The structures were packed closely together, making them seem squat, despite the fact that they were generally 3 stories high. So we've got our first description of Luthadel, the capital.
The gloomy capital.
And I'm getting some of those bureaucratic vibes that we've been getting throughout the whole book so far, which is everything is sort of dreary and looks the same. There's not a lot of... They're short, they're squat, they're uniform in appearance, except, of course, the buildings which belong to the high nobility, which are these large...
Spires.
Yes, which makes sense.
Spear-like spires.
Yes, interspersed throughout the city were a dozen or so monolithic keeps, intricate, with rows of spear-like spires or deep archways. These were the homes of the high nobility. And I love that there's a practicality to these spires. If your world is constantly raining ash, it seems a natural form of architecture that you're going to want that ash to trickle down and not pile up on your roofs, yeah?
Yeah, I would say. Good idea.
Although a consequence of this is, as Kelsier notes, this ash that is dripping down, especially when it rains, it lends this feeling of like black tar.
That creeps down the sides of buildings in an uneven gradient. Exactly. So it's just more grey. Just grey everywhere. And grey and black. I just have this... It just feels... It is indeed gloomy. You get a great sense of how gloomy it is.
Yes. I can't imagine it would be a particularly joyful place to live. And Kelsier is standing around and he's watching a group of ska workers toiling in the street below, clearing away the latest mounds of ash. He thinks to himself that they'll take it to the river channel. So there's a river that flows through, which cannot be good for drinking. Yeah?
No. It's also a very... I wonder... Ooh, it would just be just ash water, cigarette ash water. I'm going to start thinking of that now. Sorry.
It's so bad. Gross. And of course, who do you expect will be the ones that are kind of forced to drink this water? The ska, right?
Exactly, yeah.
I would imagine. I'm sure that's not something the nobles have to worry about.
Yeah, definitely not. I mean, they have to live around it, but I'm sure the nobles live furthest from the unsightly things. I mean, they did earlier on. It did also most of the open ground in the city was around these keeps. So the nobles have it. Even though the whole place is gloomy, the nobles have the least gloom, I would say.
Right, and I recall Tresting's point of view when he was thinking about Luthadel, and he was thinking about the balls and the parties.
Yes.
But just from this description, from Kelsier's opinions, I'm kind of thinking, the plantation life might not be so bad for a noble.
Yeah, that's what I'm also thinking of. Like, it seems like, yes, there's gloom everywhere, but pastoral gloom would be preferable. That's just me.
And Kelsier thinks about how much effort it takes to maintain the city. Kelsier wondered why the empire wasn't one big mound of ash. He supposed the ash must break down into soil eventually, yet it took a ridiculous amount of effort to keep cities and fields clear enough to be used. But there are always ska workers.
Fortunately, there are always enough ska to do the work. They were always enough ska to do the work. That's one line I really set there. Like, of course, there's always more ash, but there's always more ska. That's fine. They're very expendable. What a throwaway line. Obviously, it's within Kelsier's head something like, fortunately, there were always enough ska to do the work. That is sort
sardonic?
Yes, it's that kind of like, oh, yes, exactly, sardonic.
There's that.
I like the way. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's not saying it seriously or genuinely. It's like not resigned. Yeah, you got the right word. Sardonic.
Yay! We also get a slight insight into the economy of the city. Let's see, where is it? Other groups of ska passed the laborers, responding to the bells in the distance, chiming the hour and calling them to their morning's work at the forges or mills. Luthadal's main export was metal. The city was home to hundreds of forges and refineries. However, the surgings of the river provided excellent locations for mills, both to grind grains and make textiles. And I would imagine textiles would be quite a lucrative business venture, given how dirty they must get with all this ash, yeah?
Yeah, you need more. You go through them a lot more, I would say.
It makes sense as well, I think, that the Lord Ruler would want his capital to be full of all of these forges and refineries, because if metal is the mana by which they cast their spells, he's going to want to have access to.
Well, yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was thinking, okay, Allomancy probably doesn't use large amounts of metal in one go, but it did make sense to me. If a whole population of noblemen or whatever would be using this, it made sense that metal would be an export or or a resource at least for this world.
Yeah. Although it speaks of forges and refineries, it doesn't speak about any mines
Elements.
or anything
Yeah.
like that.
Oh yeah, mines. But we've got pits, so obviously this is where whatever is mined goes. That makes sense.
Yeah. The ska continued to toil. Kelsier turned away from them, looking up into the distance towards the city center, where the Lord Ruler's palace loomed like some kind of massive, multi-spined insect. Kredik Shah, the Hill of 1,000 Spires. That's a very ominous name.
Yeah. And also just like earlier on it was saying that there are lots of spires in for nobility when their places, their keeps or whatever have spires. But this is the hill of 1,000 spires. So that's like he got spires. He got lots of spires, this man.
I'm imagining the Mind Flayer out of what was the Stranger Things.
Stranger Things. Yes. Especially yeah. It big and ominous and multi-spined insect. It really does. Didn't really think too much. It feels like it's moving, like you said, like the Mind Flayer.
Oh gosh, yeah. So it seems very much upside down, although without like the biological elements that are in the upside down.
Great, exciting, but it does feel like the imagery of it is it's ominous. And just the word Kredik, the name that he decided to use, Kredik Shaw, with a K in it. K's in words are quite scary as well, just to me. I know that that's quite a blanket statement to make, but Kredik Shaw, just the two K's in this name, that I don't know, even just reading it visually, it does not give good feels.
I don't disagree.
But yeah, at least you don't disagree. That's good.
So Kelsier thinks to himself that the ash mounts are likely active, and that it's unlikely anyone in Luthadel would recognize him. It has been 3 years since his capture, so we know he was captured at some point. We know he's been to the pits. Does this mean he spent the full 3 years in the pits, or did he spend a week there and then get away and go off and learn allomancy, or what?
Has he
There's
been
a
doing?
3-year gap here.
Mm-hmm. And how long is it going to take us to find out? Because we get little breadcrumbs along the way.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And he thinks to himself that there's going to be a time when he wants to be seen and recognized, but for now, anonymity was probably better. Recognized by whom? Like, what is he plotting? He is clearly planning something. I suspect it's something big, because I get the sense that this is not a guy that does anything small.
Yeah, and he seems to have I got this feeling from him in the earlier chapters as well, or the prologue, of this is going to happen at one day. He has these kind of like, oh well, we'll get rid of this I'll have to rid them of this way of thinking and all of that.
Right.
You could say he thinks a lot of himself, but you're like, yeah, I suppose, because you believe him. Why wouldn't you?
So do you think
what are the great things he's going to do?
Right. Like, it almost feels like he kind of wants to stop the Lord Ruler, or, create a meaningful rebellion, a meaningful change.
Yeah.
But I'm not so that seems like an awfully big ask from what we've been,
Yeah,
how do
even
you
for
do
him.
that?
Yeah, even for him, like we do have the sense that he's got some skills. This is just one guy, and we have seen how deeply oppressed people are here. That they don't have hope. He would need to force people into action, as he has done with that small group of Scar. But like, yeah, it's a very big ask.
Yeah. But he certainly has the charisma for it.
Yes,
And then a man comes up, and we are introduced to Doxson, a short,
not
stocky
Dixon.
man. Not Dixon, Doxson, who is old friends with Kelsier. He had a squarish face that seemed well suited to his moderately stocky build. A nondescript brown hooded cloak covered his black hair, and he wore the same short half beard that he'd sported since his face had first put forth whiskers some 20 years before. So this is an old friend of Kelsier, and he's wearing a nobleman's suit.
So this we have an example, a bit more of a description of the nobleman's suit. If you could read that.
He, like Kelsier, wore a nobleman's suit, colored vest, dark coat and trousers, and a thin cloak to keep off the ash. The clothing wasn't rich, but it was aristocratic, indicative of the Luthadel middle class. That's an interesting thought.
Yes. So okay, and am I just ignorant? Because I was like, wait, I literally circled aristocratic, and then I drew a line to middle class, and I circled middle class. I was like, huh? Are we not aristocratic? But then there is the explanation that comes after that. Most men of noble birth weren't wealthy enough to be considered part of a great house. So there is a middle class, but you could still call them aristocrats. I say cats because
I mean, there are the plebs, and then there are the patricians, right? And it's all about blood.
Yeah. So they have some sort. There is a middle class that are those the most comfortable people, I suppose, because they don't have the pressures of being in the great house, but then they're also not Scar. So I guess you would want to be in the middle class if there's something for you. You have to choose, I suppose.
Right. And I've heard it said in theory that a desirable trait in a country or a nation is its ability to expand the size of the middle class, right?
Yeah.
So if there's a large, yeah, I don't know what to make of that. It's just, that's something to really chew on.
Interesting. And then we have a huge well, I thought it was quite a thing to drop there. The Lord Ruler was immortal.
Yes. And apparently he still
Yeah.
remembered the men who had supported him during the early years of his reign. The descendants of those men, no matter how poor they became, would always be favored. So immortality is I'm so familiar with immortality costing a hell of a lot to get.
Yeah, I think humans are socially we're programmed to think of that.
Yeah.
Mythologically, everything.
And like the Terrace prophecies, it's not immortality is not something that I would associate with some sort of simple spell. So I wonder how allomancy is connected to this. And I like my immediate imaginative exercises go to, is the ash and the state of the world caused by the Lord Ruler attempting to achieve immortality?
Yes. That was the cost, because we have heard of the stories, like Kelsier said, we have heard of a time where Scar were not slaves, and the sky was different, and all of that. Clearly, something. Well, we're inclined to feel like some toll has been taken on this world because it's so different to normal. The sky is just filled with ash. It seems it's gloomy and all of that. I like that connection with the world being this way so that he could be immortal. I feel like that's highly congruent.
Yeah, I'm not much of a betting man, but that's where I'd put my money right now if I had to make a prediction, is him achieving immortality is what messed up the world.
Yeah, a lot of the time achieving immortality like you said, it's a great cost, and a lot of the time people are feeling like it's not worth it. Obviously, that the person who gets it tries to justify it, but I don't know that this price has been paid by everybody for this person or thing or god or whatever he is, which is also goes back to the big ask of Kelsier. How do you defeat that?
Yeah. So the two of them are wearing their nobleman's clothing, and which Kelsier thinks should be enough to keep passing guard patrols from asking too many questions, which certainly begs the question, if it's so easy for Ska to just pretend to be noblemen, why don't more do it?
Yes, what is stopping them? And you can get an idea that these patrols and things like that. Yes, like you've just said, the patrol would not ask questions because they're noblemen, but this system, this world seems to have measures in place. So it seems like yes, it seems easy to dress up and look a certain way, nobleman wise, but it's probably not a good idea because there are different kinds of people that will now seek out Scar doing this. So there has to be some mechanism that stops the Scar from doing this. And you
Fair.
have to also be quite brave to do it.
Yeah, I imagine punishment must be severe. And and like I don't have in my mind some uncultured swine trying to wine and dine the nobles at a party. I mean just like trying to walk down the streets without being harassed.
Yeah, that lends itself more to just thinking about what a Scar is like, what a Scar goes through. They can't just stand around and talk and have a conversation. They would be questioned. Like, you don't just you're either working or so you would be harassed if you were a Scar. But you can, as a nobleman, you can stand and have a conversation. Wow, so
Yes.
nice.
And then we learn that neither Kelsier nor Doxson are noble, though technically Kelsier was a half-blood. In many ways, that was worse than being a normal Ska.
Ooh.
So reinforcing this idea that the nobility and the Ska do not mix. Kelsier is half-blood, which may or may not be connected to the Allomancy. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And going back to those, whether you can dress up as a nobleman or whatever, if it's worse to be a half breed than a normal Scar, that does show that there is something that they are seeked out. Is that even a word?
Sought out.
Thank you. There we go. Sought out and taken away. They're abomination. So it's dangerous to be a half breed.
Well, my question is, if
Statement.
Allomancy is connected to being half-blood, half-bloods must be incredibly dangerous. Therefore, if I'm the Lord Ruler, they should be unalived immediately. So he must not have known I'm again theorizing, he must not have known Allomancy before going to the pits of Hathsin. So in this 3-year gap, it must be that he learned, that he escaped and then learned, or learned while there and then escaped. Because if I'm the Lord Ruler, I would want them all like immediate death sentence.
Got
anyone.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. We got more flippantness coming here.
Flippancy. You're a few days late, Cal.
I decided to make a few extra stops in the plantations to the north.
Ah, so you did have something to do with Lord Tresting's death.
Kelsier smiled. You could say that. That for me. Oh, you're going to continue.
No.
No. Well, yeah, but for me, he smiled. And you could say that, like, dude, you did quite a crazy thing there. And he just made an extra stop. He calls it an extra stop.
He just makes light of such seemingly incredible feats.
Deeds. Feats better than deeds. Yes, they're feats. Better word.
Yes. His murder caused quite a stir among the local nobility.
That was kind of the intention, Kelsier said. Though, to be honest, I wasn't planning anything quite so dramatic. It was almost more of an accident than anything else.
Called it!
Yeah.
Called it! He was not intending to do it. He had a strong moral abhorrence to what he found out Trusting was going to do to the girl, and he improvised. Called
Yeah.
it.
Something broke in him, or something, the screams, he describes it, but yeah, he did not intend to make that much of a deal of it. And also, maybe even what we were privy to, which was him losing it, going after him, we didn't go through what he actually did, and he killed everyone. So that fury that he felt, it lasted. He didn't. Yeah, it was a rampage. That man was on a rampage, which is something we need to remember, that, oh yeah, this guy can actually have some righteous fury.
Yeah, look, I don't remember if I've said it or not, but I was inclined to grant him chaotic good tendencies, but I'm kind of leaning a bit more towards neutral. Like,
Okay.
when you say that, to use the D&D lingo, that wonderful axes of alignment, I say sarcastically, it's not that great, there are issues. But again, I want to think he's good because he has these clear moral
Reactions.
What does hate call it? What is height? Call the
foundation?
Moral?
No.
Yeah, he has such strong moral foundations and things that I agree with, that I want to consider him good, but he seems to take it so far.
Yes. And how far is too far?
Yeah. The part that I enjoyed: how do you accidentally kill a nobleman in his own mansion?
With a knife in the chest, Celsius said lightly. Or rather, a pair of knives in the chest. It always pays to be careful. Double tap. He properly, he made sure. He was being careful. That's great. Thanks. I agree with him. I think that, take that lesson from Mistborn, everybody. Double tap. I mean, more than a tap, but makes sense. That's exactly what my brain went to. It's just, he made sure. He made sure he's dead. Which, yes, do that.
Yep. And then Dockson says, honestly, Cal, I'd nearly forgotten how foolhardy you can be. And that's in keeping with his character, yeah?
Yes, exactly. And he in keeping with his character, calls him, he's surprised. Foolhardy, Kelsey asked with a laugh. That wasn't foolhardy. That was just a small diversion. There he's talking crack to himself. Sorry. It's just a small, it was foolhardy, okay? Like, it was small diversion. He's very cocky. It's endearing. I like it because he has the power to back it up. But you do go, whoa, calm down. And you were careful in your foolhardiness. Thanks, very well done.
Yeah, and the two of them have a really enjoyable back and forth that I like. Like Kelsier's charisma is like rubbing off on Dockson, and they just seem like buddies, and I like that.
Yeah, the Kel and Dox, and they speak to each other that way.
Yeah. Now we get into a bit of plot. They talk about this meeting that they have organized, and they're going to be talking about all of the people that they're going to invite. But before that, Dockson asks how he got into the city. He was expecting him in the evening.
He just says he snuck in last night. Oh, I snuck in last night.
Like it's some easy thing. And with, this bureaucratic nation, I have to imagine that there's this big, boring paperwork process of getting into the city, and it's probably surrounded by guards and what have you.
One does not simply sneak in to Lutherdale. So, yes. But also, the interesting part here, but how? Dockson paused. Oh, right, that's going to take some getting used to. This now makes me go back to what you were saying about the 3 years.
Yeah.
Because Dockson is getting used to something about Kelsier.
Yeah, Kelsier shrugged. I don't see why. You always work with mistings. So Kelsier's a misting.
Yes, that's what I get from that.
But he wasn't a misting before he left?
And Dockson says, yes, but this is different. He held up a hand to forestall further argument. No need, Cal. I'm not hedging. I just said it would take some time, some getting used to. So it's not that he has a problem with mistings. It's just he needs to get used to Kelsier being that.
Right, which it must be the allomancy, right? Like a Misting's a wizard.
Yeah, and that makes me think. Okay, he's not, as an old friend of Kelsier, he's still getting used to this idea. So that does make me think. Yeah, the allomancy thing, definitely a recent thing for other people to maybe Kelsier knew about it before and didn't tell him. The mystery of it all. I want them to just go and give me a flashback, but it's very good writing. That's why it's keeping me in there, because I just want to figure it all out. Very good.
Then they finally get into some discussion about who's going to be in on this mysterious job. Breeze and Ham. And I gotta say,
Cheese and ham.
I so love Brandon Sanderson's naming. We've got Ulef, we've got Shum, we've got Breeze and Ham.
I really thought, like, when I read Breeze and Ham, I was like, Breeze and Ham, cheese and ham. Did he just go cheese and ham and then say, oh, no, I can't say cheese and ham. Let's make something that sounds like cheese. Breeze. Breeze and Ham. It really is great. A great name. And, well, for Scar, I'm sure that's what their names are kind of like. Maybe
yes. Kelsier asks about Trap. Trap's dead. The Ministry finally caught up with him a couple months ago. Didn't even bother sending him to the pits. They beheaded him on the spot.
There's your unaliving on the spot. If I was the Lord Ruler, I'd unalive them on the spot. Well, there you go.
Yeah, and then we get a sort of darker insight into Kelsier's personality. Kelsier thinks sometimes Kelsier felt that a Ska Misting's life wasn't so much about surviving as it was about picking the right time to die.
I think that's the most negative thing he said. He's
the most pessimistic.
Pessimistic, that's the one. Yeah. And he's like closing his eyes, exhaling softly. He's feeling it. He's feeling that really. It's not just a thought. It's actually, he's feeling pain there.
Yeah. Well, we know that Kelsier is a person who cares deeply, who feels very strongly.
I continue to like him.
Yep.
My like for him only grows. I suppose it's a great thing for me to start liking one of the protagonists. So
this leaves the team without a smoker.
Capital S.
Capital S. So basically, I'm assuming that just means they need someone to cast Fog Cloud in order to help the escape.
Yeah. So my curiosity here. So we need certain people? Can people only do one kind of magic, or are they just good at certain ones so they become a smoker? That's something I need confirmation about. Yeah.
Or do you even really need magic to be a smoker? Because you can presumably set off some kind of
device,
gas canister. Yeah. I mean, ash is everywhere. Just, turn on a fan.
There you go. Sprinkle.
So Dockson suggests Ruddy, and we get another really great line from Kelsier. No, he's a good smoker, but he's not a good enough man.
Dockson smiled. Not a good enough man to be on a thieving crew. Cal, I have missed working with you. All right, who then? So it's really another. We were just talking about learning more about Kelsier and liking Kelsier, but now we've also learned another thing. It's just he does this. This lends itself a bit more to the goodness of Kelsier. He's got, yes, you can be in a thieving crew, but you have to be a good man. So
is Clubs still running that shop of his?
More names, love it. Clubs, Trap.
He's supposed to be one of the best smokers in the city, to which Dockson replies,
I suppose, Dockson said, but isn't he supposed to be kind of hard to work with?
He's not so bad, not once you get used to him. Besides, I think he might be amenable to this particular job. So, like, we've all had that boss that's kind of a hard ass to work with, right? And that's the vibe that I got from this little interaction, and I kind of smiled. I tend to like that kind of personality, at least when I'm reading of those kinds of characters, People
that are an acquired taste. One of the things here that caught my eye just now is, I'll invite him. I think one of his relatives is a tin eye. So we have allomancy. What on earth is a tin eye? Tin, okay, we can burn tin. What happens when you burn tin?
Right.
All of that. So I'm like, whoa. And then he says, do you want me to invite him too? Sounds good. So we're going to have a tin eye, and we're going to find out what a tin eye is. So is that the same sort of thing as like a smoker? Like they do something with tin and their eyes? Is that like it's just
maybe
a different...
If Kelsier burnt tin in the prologue, right?
What did
which
he?
cast
Yeah.
haste,
Okay.
essentially. Maybe, maybe it's like a sight. Like maybe there are people trained to look at and like grade levels of metal or something. You know what I mean? Identify metals.
Yeah. It's really interesting linguistically. Okay, I'm nerding out hard because we've got smoker. So we were like, okay, we let's now classify magic as what they do, as something a seeker or something. That's what I would expect. That we have but we've got a tin eye. So it's like,
Did,
okay, is that
did you
a
ever
doing or having thing? Yeah.
did you ever watch Ocean's 11?
Yes, it was very good.
This is yes, it's been so long since I've seen it, but this is the part of the movie where, they're like naming
Getting
off
the crew.
everyone's. Yeah.
Yes. Oh my gosh. That reminds me of have you seen the Family Guy episode where they make fun of that? It's like
Yes.
it's like, you son of a bitch, I'm in.
You son of a bitch, I'm in.
Wait, is that no,
Well, if
that's
he's in, I'm in.
no, yeah, is it you son of a bitch, I'm in? Is that in Rick and Morty? There's one of those in Rick and Morty as well.
I think it was. I mean,
Yeah.
honestly, they've all
That
done
yeah,
stuff. But
comedy.
yeah, I think
Comedy.
you're right. It might be. It's a comedy.
Yeah, that there is one where it's like whether he has a shower and then he decides he's gonna there's yeah, I think you son of a bitch, I'm in is from Rick and Morty, but there is a
Yeah.
Family Guy one as well where it's like they get a whole crew together. The Rick and Morty one goes hard. But
Well,
yeah,
if
this
he's
is
in, I'm out. Well, if he's out,
yeah.
I'm in.
So this is
Uh,
and I'm just thinking of the Ocean's 11, like the whole we needed this, we needed that, and the music. I know that is probably not what Brandon Sanderson wants us to do, but I like that idea. Just as a parody.
Yeah. Well, beyond that, there's just Yedden, assuming he's still interested.
That's one of the names I need to re-listen to see how you say it.
He'll be there, Kelsier said.
He'd better be, Doxson said. He'll be the one paying us after all. Okay, that doesn't. Huh? How does that work? Okay. I was confused. Okay, were you confused? What did you think of that? Sorry, I know that this is like very detailed, but I would like to know. You can cut this out.
Yeah. No. It's interesting. Whatever role he's playing, maybe he'll be the one to end with the final bag, and that he hands it out. Or maybe, like, not all of these are necessarily ska.
Yes.
Like, some of them could be noblemen, right? And
Yeah.
there's nothing that's exclusively naming these as ska, which means some money laundering element.
Yes,
here.
that's yeah. There's something that they need to do something with whatever they take that will turn it into money, basically. I'm not saying magically, but we don't know.
You didn't mention Marsh, Doxson shrugged.
I warned you. Your brother never did approve of our methods, and now, you know Marsh. You know Marsh.
So Marsh is Kelsier's brother, yeah? Have I read that right?
Yes. But now, okay, so we got Marsh. So we've got Kelsier as a half-breed, and Marsh is his brother.
They don't say half-brother. So
yes.
if he's a full brother, then he would be a half-breed as well, right? Like that. There's no chance of him being all noble or all ska.
If he's a half brother, there is a chance. But they might not be saying, they wouldn't in discussion. You don't, unless you don't have to say half brother. You can just say brother because it's strong enough of a word. Half is just to do with the blood. So I mean he doesn't agree with your methods. That could just mean that he is like you said, he is a scar that just wants to keep his nose out of noblemen, just keep himself out of trouble. Your brother never did approve of our methods, because I mean, could you imagine saying your half brother? It would I'm wondering. Okay, so it's either or for me.
So yeah, Doxson shrugged. I warned you, your brother never did approve of our methods, and now, well, Marsh, he won't have anything to do with Yedden and the rebellion anymore, let alone with a bunch of criminals like us. I think we'll have to find someone else to infiltrate the obligators.
Does that mean Marsh is an obligator or somebody who infiltrates the obligators?
Again, going back to Tresting's impression of the obligators, it's such a strange thing. I didn't think the ska were human. I didn't think the obligators were human. So, but apparently they all are.
Yeah, what makes an obligator an obligator? Do they just go and get the tattoos and practice? And so I want to know what Marsh is. Who?
Yeah, well, Marsh is his
Well, we know
brother.
who he is. Yeah, I know we know who he is, but I mean, like, what is he? Is
Yeah.
he? Yeah.
The rebellion anymore. So there's this ongoing rebellion, or
And
is it one of those self-perception things? Like these are a bunch of criminals doing a heist or a job isn't necessarily a rebellion, or it's like small. That's not true. I kind of take that back. I think under scrutiny that statement might
rebellion
fall
sounds
apart.
like the rebellion. So it's not rebellion; it's the rebellion. Like that must be a group. I know
Yeah.
what you were trying to say. Like you're thinking out loud because it's like, okay, you could see that being part of a crew. If there was no the there, it would be rebellion. Being a thief is an act of rebellion.
Right. Like, and like I imagine a group of, well, ska workers taking over the plantation and refusing to work as rebellion. I don't necessarily consider thievery, but in this tyrannical society, any amount of stick it to the man kind of action could be considered a rebellion in its own form, I suppose, even if it's self-serving. No, because yeah,
rebellion is self-serving. Yes.
yeah. There's a lot to unpack there. But Kelsier's confident that he'll do it, that Marsh will do it once he personally stops by to persuade him. And the two of them reflect on how good this feels. Getting back together, and Kelsier says, "It will be a job like no other." And
he
then
looks towards the twisted building at its center. What does that mean? Does that mean where he's going there? Is that where the job is? That's
entirely
scary.
possible. And is he looking at the palace at Credit Shaw?
I think he is because this is across the city and toward the twisted building at its center.
That
Because Credit Shaw is
wouldn't.
in the center. Wouldn't it be?
I would imagine so.
Yes, it is. Yeah. Go look at your map.
Yeah, which would mean, ooh, where's the map?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yep. Wow. Okay, so they're gonna rob the Lord Ruler.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm like, are you hinting at that, or is it just that whatever this job is going to lead us to something against the Lord Ruler? But I mean, it is a job like no other, and it's insane. So, and then he looks at the critic show, like, whoa.
Yeah. Wow. Wow.
All right, he calls his brother a prude. That's quite funny. A prude of a brother. So the brother has. So is that his brother's morals are what stop him. So just another thing there.
So yeah, so they're gonna go off and do something, and then but Doxson basically has something that he wants to show Kelsier, and
it will be worth his time.
Yep, and then thus we get to part 2 of 3 of chapter 2. Yeah.
Vin.
Lady Kitty, if you would be so kind as to read us in.
Vin sat in the corner of the safe house's main lair. She kept to the shadows, as usual. The more she stayed out of sight, the more the others would ignore her. She couldn't afford to expend luck keeping the men's hands off her. She'd barely had time to regenerate what she'd used a few days before during the meeting with the obligator.
I think it was last chapter where Vin had made some sort of comment about, was it Thenos or Theros?
Theron.
Theron eyeing her in a way that made her uncomfortable. Yeah. And here she is affirming that she uses her luck to keep people's hands off her. And we know she's young and we know she looks younger. And I am not a girl.
What?
Just in case you didn't know, I'm not a girl.
Okay.
And I'm not going to pretend to know intimately what girls go through when they go through the puberty age. But I have heard it said that it can be a very disconcerting and sort of uncomfortable observation to view how men look at you differently around that time. Is there anything?
Yeah, there is that you suddenly you're viewed differently. You're right. That's a good insight into just the transformation of puberty. You view differently when you're a man. You turn into a different viewer. Whereas a woman, I suppose, if we're going to try and make this highly feminist, a woman turns into a different kind of view. They are seen differently. And it's uncomfortable. You start seeing yourself differently because you will be seen differently. You have to learn these things. You have to learn, okay, like there is some point in a woman's life where she is not allowed anymore to walk around without a top on. you eventually, you're not allowed to do that, and it is a very awkward sort of thing where, like, okay, to get into it, we could get into it. We can do a think on it if we want, but
okay,
interesting question.
Yeah, this is an interesting topic, and there is one more element I'm gonna ask you about quickly, but let's have this conversation over on your channel then, on the Thinkers.
Yes.
So I don't know if it'll be this Thursday, but a Thursday in the future over on ThatDarnKitteh. Everyone should go subscribe to her channel. It's incredible. We will be discussing puberty and what that's like for people to go through. But this also speaks to, for this specific topic, Brandon Sanderson and his ability to write women. Because I know a lot of readers have very strong opinions on males writing women. So do you think he's doing right by Vin and by readers?
Oh yes. I don't sit there and go, oh well, he's a man, how could he not know? How could he know? How could he has empathy? Writers have empathy. A good writer is able to go into, yes, they can't have the exact experience, but I was actually, one of my comments going forward one of my feelings of how he does portray Vin's vulnerability. It's very, very well done. I really enjoy it. And it's a silly sort of criticism. Then nobody can write anyone but themselves. It doesn't make sense to be like, oh no, a man can't write a woman. There are writers that can't write the opposite sex, but Brandon Sanderson doesn't seem to be one of those.
Nice. So Vin is trying to be invisible over at Kammen's safe house, and she's trying not to use her luck because she has to, replenish her mana. And she reflects that girls need to be tough. In many ways, they need to be tougher than men to survive. Again, more of that Brandon Sanderson really, I think, hitting some important elements of the female perspective. And Kammen is sitting with half a dozen cronies, and he's offering overpriced alcohol, which Vin considers to be a form of exploitation. Yeah.
Yeah. Goes back to more of, you were talking in, I think it was chapter 1, where you would think, okay, these criminals, whatever, are rebelling against their oppressors and things like that. Maybe they would not oppress each other so much, but here you go. He's exploiting his people. It doesn't really make a difference. Sky are not perfect. Just because they're oppressed doesn't mean that they're perfect.
Right. And these are Reen's words to her. Reen had always told her that a girl needed to be tough, even tougher than a man. You think some crew leader is going to want a liability like you on his team? Even I don't want to have to work with you, and I'm your brother.
That hurts, man. That's what I was trying to. Okay, I could have this. Okay, we'll go into it just to read, but her back still throbbed. Kammen had whipped her the day before. The blood would ruin her shirt, and she wouldn't be able to afford another one. Kammen was already retaining her wages to pay the debts Reen had left behind. So she can't even. She's just thinking. I don't know. It hurts. Okay, reading this makes me just want to curl up, and I feel really horrible for her. The vulnerability really shines through. He writes it really well.
Yes. But then she says,
oh, by the way, wait. I just picked up, because remember I said we said the names. You asked if we say the names properly, and I didn't know how we said Kammen in the book. I mean, in the audiobook, it's Kammen. because one of the comments I was going to say is caiman is a kind of like, if the way it's spelt, it's different, but caiman is a kind of crocodile thing. So I wondered if
Neat.
that was deliberate.
I
But
hate it so much.
yeah,
I like
so it's
caiman, but caiman's cool.
Yeah,
I guess.
caiman. Okay,
Sweet.
I've been saying caiman as well, right?
Yeah, I guess we should. Is there like a rule that audiobooks have to have the proper
Yeah,
name?
are audiobooks the canon? Because
Is caiman canon?
It's caiman canon. No, I like. We both went for caiman though.
Let's stick with
Initially,
caiman for now.
yeah.
So
Stick
what
it
does
to the
she
man.
say? Anyway, Caiman gets up and he's like, "Hey, it's time." And Vin frowned.
Time for what?
So they're going to
Yeah.
the Ministry's Canton of Finance, the big bank, an imposing structure, even though everything about the Steel Ministry tended to be imposing, which makes sense. The tall and blocky building had a massive rose window in the front, though the glass was dark from the outside. Two large banners hung down beside the window, the soot-stained red cloth proclaiming praises to the Lord Ruler. And we get more insight into Vin's, insight into other people, her ability to read people. Vin could sense his apprehension, Caiman's apprehension. The Canton of Finance was hardly the most threatening of ministry offices. The Canton of Inquisition, or even the Canton of Orthodoxy, had a far more ominous reputation. However, voluntarily entering any ministry office, putting yourself in the power of the obligators, well, it was a thing to do only after serious consideration. But Caiman takes a deep breath and strides forward, with his dueling cane tapping against the stone as he walked. Tap, tap, tap. I did those taps. That's not written in the book.
I just wanted to, speaking of the cane, dueling cane. We didn't talk about that before. I think it was mentioned there was a dueling cane mentioned in the previous chapters. What on earth is that a thing?
Yeah.
Culturally, do they duel, or is it just is that a thing? Like literally, it's just this ignorance for me in our world.
In our world, yeah. People used to like duel with canes. I think like there are swords in the canes you could take.
Yeah,
out.
That's what I imagine. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess it is a sword.
I mean, it could just like be like a cane you use to beat people as well. I don't know the specifics. I just know that it's a thing.
Yeah, when I say it's a thing, I'm saying like, is that a cultural thing that we call it a dueling cane because people would duel with it, or it's just a dueling cane because it can be used as a sword? That's what I mean. Is there a cultural thing of dueling? Which that's my Wheel of Time showing through, because there's certain cities or cultures in Wheel of Time where a duel is a thing, and they wear knives around their necks and things like that. So I guess I'm just nerding.
I mean, I imagine Sherlock Holmes style people.
Yeah, not a huge comment, not a huge insight, just a curiosity.
Yeah, I mean, anyone can do battle with a large wooden stick, right?
Yes.
But now I'm totally associating Caiman with the Penguin from Gotham.
Yes, because he's large, he's fat. Yep. He's a wide man.
And a criminal, and not a particularly bright criminal who likes to pretend he's the nobility. This guy's totally Oswald Cobblepot.
Also, no, hold on, just thinking, it was a thing to do only after serious consideration. She's just being dragged there. She
has no clue what's going on.
Yeah, she has no clue what's going on, and she has to go with him. Like, she doesn't get a choice she doesn't get to seriously consider it. We're not even considering what. She's just looking at him and seeing what he's going through. She doesn't think of, oh, should I go with him? This is not even a question in her mind. I was going to say that. So I say that Brandon Sanderson writes vulnerability well. He writes abuse really well. He writes abused people quite insightfully. Her mind, she doesn't think of herself immediately. She has less of a self-image, I feel. You do get it. You do get glimpses of this, but you can see from just her subtle ways, she is so totally abused.
Yes. Poor girl. So Vin follows Kamen up the steps, and they waited as one of the crew members jumped forward to pull the door open for his master. Of the 6 attendants, only Vin seemed to have been told nothing of Kamen's plan. Suspiciously, Theron, Kamen's supposed partner in the ministry scam, was nowhere to be seen. And they enter into the Canton building. Vibrant red light, sparkling with lines of blue, fell from the rose window. A single obligator with mid-level tattoos around his eyes sat behind a desk at the end of the extended entryway. It sounds kind of beautiful.
Yeah. Inside there.
At least from the inside, yeah?
Yeah, and this is the first sort of color, really, we're getting. Yes, we have red. They spoke about a red sun and things like that, but we had red banners and we have this red window. So there's this, we have.
Gosh, if there's a red sun, I'm just trying to imagine what light from a red sun would look like cast through a stained glass window.
Super red? I don't know.
Unnerving.
I don't have physics in my brain anymore.
So
what do you think? Why did he not tell her anything? I guess she doesn't matter, but it just doesn't make sense to me that you would not tell her what's going on. You should. Just to...
Yeah, I mean, I strongly believe that knowledge prevents unfortunate mishaps.
Exactly, unforeseen circumstances, yes.
There's something very personal feeling about this, though. And I don't know if that's just because we're getting it from Vin's perspective. It could be that she just was an afterthought. Maybe he wasn't even planning on bringing her. We know he made the connection that she's a good luck charm, but I don't know. It feels personal to me.
What do you mean by personal? His decision is personal.
Uniquely to make her feel bad.
Yeah. Like, it doesn't matter. It's actually, he would rather leave it that way. Maybe he doesn't want to deal with her asking questions about Theron, and yeah, he has no consideration for her. And also maybe there is an absolute expectation of her obedience and her falling in. She doesn't need to be, there's no explanation needed here. To you and me, it just seems stupid, because even if you don't, it's petty for him to not tell her. Yes,
petty
it's petty.
is a very, very wonderful word for this.
Yeah, the petty and personal decision he's made here. Stupid.
Yes.
But whatever.
I am Lord Jeddu, he said.
What are you doing, Kamen?
Vin thought.
You insisted to Theron that you wouldn't meet with Prelane Laird in his Canton office. Yet, now you're here.
It's important to note that was her stream of consciousness. She wasn't actually saying that to Kamen.
Yeah.
Just for those listening. But that's important.
She's definitely not going to say that out loud. There's no way that you can have that. He's talking to the obligator, and he's saying, yeah.
But Kamen is doing some very shifty stuff. And the obligator tells Kamen, you may take one attendant with you into the waiting chamber. The rest must remain here. Kamen's huff of disdain indicated what he thought of that prohibition, but the obligator didn't look up from his ledger. Kamen stood for a moment, and Vin couldn't tell if he was genuinely angry or just playing the part of an arrogant nobleman. Finally, he jabbed a finger at Vin. Come, he said, turning and waddling toward the indicated door. This guy's totally the Penguin.
Yeah, he would. That really works. I am really imagining him.
Oh my gosh. The room beyond was lavish and plush, and several noblemen lounged in various postures of waiting. Kamen chose a chair and settled into it, then pointed toward a table set with the wine and red frosted cakes. Vin obediently fetched him a glass of wine and a plate of food, ignoring her own hunger. And Kamen's picking at the cakes and smacking quietly as he ate.
Oh, it's gross. He's so gross. Smacking quietly. Like, I don't like food noises, okay? Maybe some ASMR people enjoy that, but that just makes me no. I don't. I'm thinking of this waddling, smacking. I do not like him.
Oh yeah, no, I'm
Very,
right there with you. So Vin has another insight, as you say.
he's nervous, more nervous even than before.
Once we get in, you will say nothing, Cameron grumbled between bites.
You're betraying Theron.
Vin whispered. Cameron nodded.
But how? Why?
Theron's plan was complex in execution, but simple in concept. Every year, the ministry transferred its new acolyte obligators from a northern training facility south to Luthadel for final instruction. Theron had discovered that those acolytes and their overseers brought down with them large amounts of ministry funds, disguised as baggage, to be strongholded in Luthadel.
Banditry was very difficult in the Final Empire, what with the constant patrols along the canal routes. However, if one were running the very canal boats that the acolytes were sailing upon, a robbery could become possible, arranged at just the right time. The guards turning on their passengers, a man could make quite a profit, then blame it all on banditry.
So now we've got more or less an understanding of what Theron and Cameron's job would entail and how it's possible.
Yes, so that's why he was trying to he's trying to say we will give you the transportation services. That was the whole thing in the first chapter of trying to get the obligator or whatever to give him this, to take this deal that we'll provide the transportation. That's why Lord Jedue or whatever is a transport guy.
Exactly. And I gotta say, it's very brave of the two of them to be speaking so openly. I'm very surprised at Vin's bravery here. But Cameron more or less informs Vin and reinforces Vin's very strong opinions on betrayal. Cameron's going to betray Theron here and now. He's basically going to convince the ministry to give him a down payment, and then he's going to leave Theron to, clean up the mess.
He's breaking. Yeah, he's there will be the mess. He's trying to cash out now, but there will be a mess when there is the robbery. But he doesn't want to put in that much work. He just wants to get out now, and it's just another betrayal.
It's not a terrible plan either.
Yeah. What you saying? A terrible plan to cash out now?
Yeah, it's probably a better safe than sorry. Good move, good choice.
Yeah, because she does think that they both are bound to betray each other. It's just who's going to do it first, and that's the insight we get from to the underworld that we get from Vin. Yes, there is this undertone of her brother telling her that everyone will always betray everyone, which is a deeper thing. But literally in the underworld, you can. It makes sense. It's not her just being paranoid. It makes sense that two thieves would probably not be able to trust each other too far.
Right, and she reflects Cameron would make a quick profit as well as rid himself of one of his more powerful rivals. So I'm with Cameron on this one. I think it's not an unintelligent decision.
It's a decision. It's done. It's a what do I mean by it's a decision? I mean it's a, what am I trying to say?
Fortune favors the bold.
It's bold. There we go. It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Yeah, what I think.
And ultimately it makes Vin uncomfortable. She's feeling, her stomach twisting. She really does not like betrayal. It hurts so much.
And she asks herself, why does it still bother me so? Everyone betrays everyone else. That's the way life is. It still bothers her. She's still got this. She hasn't, as much as she thinks she's toughened and all of this stuff, she is still able to, she doesn't like betrayal. That you don't have to like it.
She's very similar to Kelsier in that she has those very strong moral foundations. And it's ones that I agree with. Betraying people, not cool.
She wanted to find a corner, someplace cramped and secluded, and hide alone. Again, he really does make you feel her kind of, just run away kind of thing. And it was just one of the things I wanted to note as I just feel things He's making me feel things. Yay.
Yes. And they're eventually brought in to the room, and they do not see Prelin Laird.
Mm-hmm.
Is the audiobook saying Prelin? Prelin?
Prelin.
Prelin.
Mm-hmm. And by the way, I didn't want to. We're going to continue with our own pronunciations. Let's make that clear. But it's Lord Jadu. That's how he says it.
Lord Jadu.
Jadu.
So,
yeah.
Jadu. Interesting. Yes. So Kamen pauses in the doorway. He's a bit taken aback. The strange obligator speaks, Lord Jadu. Like Laird, he wore gray robes, but he was very different from the stern bureaucratic man Kamen had dealt with before. This man was lean in a muscular way, and his clean-shaven triangular head gave him an almost predatory look. I was under the impression that I would be meeting with Prelin Laird, Kamen said, still not moving into the room. Prelin Laird has been called away on other business. I am High Prelin Ariv, head of the board that was reviewing your proposal. You have a rare opportunity to address me directly. I normally don't hear cases in person, but Laird's absence has made it necessary for me to share in some of his work.
Finn's instincts made her tense. We should go now. She didn't say that.
Thinks,
it's just what she
Yes, she thinks. So her alarm bells are going off.
But the description of the description of him is more, you can actually feel the intimidation from this guy's. They're all scary because they're higher up in the food chain, but this guy is even physically intimidating because he's lean and muscular and he's very scary.
Well, High Prelin Ariv, Kaiman said with a careful voice. I assume that since I have been called back for another appointment, the board is considering my offer. Indeed we are. Though I must admit there are some council members who are apprehensive about dealing with a family that is so near to economic disaster. The ministry generally prefers to be conservative in its financial operations. But there are others on the board who are rather eager to take advantage of the savings you offered us.
Okay, sorry. Sorry, because
I'm having too much fun, Kitty.
I know, I'm enjoying you. I was going to say general statement of appreciation of your reading ability. I wanted to let you go. I will let you go, but I just want to say, I'm not going to stop you reading. I don't want to read because I just want you to read to me. So just keep doing that. But just what I wanted to also say here is you sound like the audiobook. They've read him this way. It's really cool. Sorry.
I may or may not have some experience reading audiobooks.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sorry, continue.
Not extensive experience. But there are others on the board who are rather eager to take advantage of the savings you offered us. I, as of yet, have not made my decision. The obligator leaned forward. Which is why I noted that you have a rare opportunity. Convince me, Lord Jadu, and you will have your contract. Surely, Prelin Laird, outline the details of our offer. Yes, but I would like to hear the arguments from you personally. Humor me. So, this is... My alarm bells are going off now as well. And I don't think it's because we're viewing this from Vin's perspective. I think there's such an attention to convince me. I think he clearly wants to figure out if they're using allomancy.
Yes, you get that idea. You're like, oh no, they're looking for something. As the reader, okay, maybe not Kamen. He doesn't have that. He would maybe would see this as, okay, wait, something's going wrong with my scheme here. He has not convinced. But for us, we're seeing a lot more. We're like, oh no, they've found something wrong with this convincing thing. The emphasis on convince me, that's like, oh, okay, there was some detection, and now this is a test again to see.
Yeah.
And you pick that up.
Yeah, absolutely. And,
Mhm.
he just keeps going, prove it, prove it, prove it. And Vin, so smart,
Mhm.
she prepares her luck, but something restrained her. The situation felt wrong. So they keep continuing. Cameron keeps trying with his less than strong arguments, his reasonable but kind of weak arguments. And Ariv is like, no, no, work harder, work harder. And
Mhm.
gritting her teeth, Vin reached out and used her luck on the obligator, making him less suspicious. Ariv smiled. Well, you have convinced me, he suddenly declared.
That was way too sudden.
Way too sudden. Ariv continued, your most recent letter suggested that you need 3,000 boxings as an advance to refurbish your equipment and resume shipping operations. See the scribe in the main hallway to finish the paperwork so that you may requisition the necessary funds. And
Mhm.
it's that. It's simple.
It's
He
way too simple.
smiles. Yep.
Mhm.
And they walk out. No problem. And
And
she's
that
just
builds this.
screaming.
Something is wrong. Something is very wrong. That is in your head. She's like, "Oh, you feel it because you see Cameron going ahead, sighing with relief, getting his thing,
Yeah.
being happy about it. And you're like, oh." So the suspense of, okay, this something has happened here. Something big has happened.
A
Um,
happy
and
obligator was always a bad sign.
which is also quite interesting. Smiles are a theme. Mm-hmm.
And this ends the Vin portion of chapter 2, which brings us to the final part of this chapter, which is another Kelsier POV.
Mm-hmm.
Kelsier stuffed another one of the little red frosted cakes into his mouth, chewing with satisfaction. The fat thief and his scrawny attendant passed through the waiting room, entering the entryway beyond. The obligator who had interviewed the two thieves remained in his office, apparently waiting his next appointment. Dachshund basically asks Kelsier what his opinion of the girl is, and Kelsier is very flippant, and he comments about how the ministry always has superior snacks, and Dachshund rolls his eyes, and Kelsier asks, how'd you find out about her? Your brother, Dachshund replied. So apparently Cameron tried to swindle Marsh a few months ago, and he brought the girl with him, and apparently Vin is getting pretty famous in the proper circles. And Dachshund comments, I'm still not sure if he knows what she is or not.
So Marsh knew.
Marsh
Marsh could
knew,
pick up on it. And what does that mean about Marsh?
and yes, and also noteworthy that Marsh would be a target of Cameron.
Yes, a target, not just a thief.
Yeah.
Elsewhere.
So again, we don't necessarily know if he's a full-blooded noble or just another crew.
Yeah, because you could still swindle another crew leader.
Yeah, as Cameron just tried to do with Theron.
The fact here that he talks about actually Cameron's little good luck charm is becoming moderately famous. So I mean, he's clearly said something that she is a good luck charm. He's expressed it in that way, even though she calls it luck herself. But that association of her as good luck charm has gone noticed by others.
What do you think of luck as a theme, just in general? If I said that to you, where would your mind go?
Well, it's now been changed by your discussion of luck as a superpower. Luck is just chance going the right way. Luck as a theme. Well, if we want to go deep, if you were born in a certain way, in a certain position in life, that's luck. Can you go that's how I can look at it on a character level. Where you were placed, where you landed up when you were born, is luck. That's where I would get it. And we do have that sort of consideration later on. We'll get to
it. So basically,
wait, what is your position? That you asked me the question. So what do you think of?
I don't know that I have any deep thoughts on luck as a theme. We'll see. Clearly, the phrase and ideas of luck will be prevalent in this book, as far as I can tell. And I think we need to get a bit farther into it before I can come to any tremendously deep philosophical idea on the matter.
One more thing, though. Okay.
Yeah.
Then also, luck is a massive thing in Wheel of Time. So
Go on, educate
go
me,
and
please.
no, I want you to just read Wheel of Time. That's all.
Oh gosh,
Just
I'll add it to the list. Okay.
because there is a character, Matt, who has the Dark One's own luck. Make of that what you wish.
So many books I need to get through.
14
14
of the series, yes. So many series to get through, and to get through that, now you'll get to the luck part in like the third book, so it's fine.
Cameron and Vin and the crew all leave, and Kelsier and Dox follow. Kelsier noticed that Vin is uniquely jumpy, very neurotic, and the right side of her face was slightly discolored from a partially healed bruise. And again, we get that more vengeful aspect of Kelsier's character. Kelsier eyed the self-important Kamen. I'll have to come up with something particularly suitable to do to that man. And Doxon remarks, poor thing, but she'll be free of him soon enough. It's a wonder no one discovered her before this. And Kelsier affirms she's at least a misting, and if Marsh says she's more, I'm inclined to believe him. I'm a bit surprised to see her using allomancy on a member of the ministry, especially inside a Canton building. I'd guess that she doesn't even know that she's using her abilities. Well, we know that's not entirely correct. Doxon is correct that she doesn't quite know what she is.
Yeah, she doesn't know she's using allomancy. She's using her luck. That's it. She knows it's an ability, but she's never made a connection beyond, oh, I just have this thing that other people don't have. That's it.
Yeah. And we get the justification for how she's able to replenish her mana. Kelsier nodded. Trace minerals in the water can be burned if just for a tiny bit of power. That's one of the reasons the Lord Ruler built his city here. Lots of metals in the ground. I'd say that, and then they get cut off. And cliffhanger, before we get into what they were cut off by, there was one more thing. So Kelsier again refers to using the magic as burning the metals. And I remember in the prologue, he commented on feeling a burning sensation. Vin never talks about burning sensation.
No. The only thing that we get of Vin's, the only thing that seems similar is the fact that it is finite, that there is a level. She knows that she can use something up. But the sensation is not the same. You're right. There's no burning sensation.
Yeah, and if the burning sensation, like the way I'm imagining it, is like, when you drink alcohol, that kind of burning, not like a fire burning. Like it could be the difference between, a shot of tequila and one small drop of vodka in your water.
Yeah, that's a nice comparison. Yeah, I get that. She just has never had enough of it to feel like burning.
Yeah. So that's kind of what's going on in my mind as far as the distinction here between Kelsier's burning and Vin's non-mention of the topic.
It makes sense. It's not that there is an inconsistency in how these things work.
Right. Kelsier trailed off, frowning slightly. Something was wrong. He glanced toward Kamen and his crew. They were still visible in the near distance, crossing the street and heading south. A figure appeared in the Canton building's doorway, lean. With a confident air, he bore the tattoos of the High Prelin of the Canton of Finance around his eyes, probably the very man Kamen had met with shortly before. The obligator stepped out of the building, and a second man exited behind him. Beside Kelsier, Doxon suddenly grew stiff.
The second man was tall, with a strong build. As he turned, Kelsier was able to see that a thick metal spike had been pounded tip first through each of the man's eyes, with shafts as wide as an eye socket. The nail-like spikes were long enough that their sharp points jutted out about an inch from the back of the man's clean-shaven skull. The flat spike ends shone like two silvery discs, sticking out of the sockets in the front where the eyes should have been. Damn, what is that? That's quite a Steel Inquisitor. Sorry, you said.
A Steel Inquisitor. That sounds very intimidating, very scary, very painful.
Yeah. Yes, very painful, yet it's still alive.
Yep. Like, these aren't glasses. Like, they are...
It goes through his head. It was very hard for me to imagine this. I was like, whoa, that's over the top.
And this is scary for both Doxon and Kelsier, because Doxin, like, what's that doing here? And Kelsier's like, stay calm, trying to force himself to do the same. So he's trying. There is fear here
from Kelsier, which is new.
This is new for us experiencing Kelsier in this way as well.
So he does talk. We get more insight into what these things this Steel Inquisitor has, because he says he's not here for us. Kelsier said, "I'm not burning anything. He'll think that we're just ordinary noblemen." So they have some sort of sense of allomancy. I don't know if they can tell the blood of the person, but yeah, that they. It seems like it. It seems that I'm not burning anything. He'll think that we're just ordinary noblemen. So even if this Inquisitor person senses the ability in Kelsier, it makes sense that he would have it because he's a nobleman.
I mean, again, with this burning alcohol idea, I'm imagining that the Steel Inquisitors, like these eye things, like it must be like an infrared goggles, and like when you burn it, your body temperature changes, and like maybe that's all, again, my own imagination work until it's stated.
Confirmed. Yeah, their abilities are stated outright.
Yeah, because we know the obligators are trained to detect when their minds are being messed with, but that's not the same as seeing. We know that these Steel Inquisitors have these eye spike things, so that's the difference. And Kelsier and Doxin note that the two aren't like chasing after them. They're leisurely following. So they know that there's a bigger fish to catch. And
yeah, they're not just trying to catch her. They've sent a tail to follow them.
Yes. Or two, Kelsier says. At least, most likely. They more or less determine that, well, we can't have the obligators, getting this girl who's super special, apparently. So Kelsier reaches into his cloak pocket and pulls out a small vial, a collection of metal flakes floated in an alcohol solution within: iron, steel, tin, pewter, copper, bronze, zinc, and brass, the 8 basic allomantic metals. Kelsier pulled off the stopper and downed the contents in a single swift gulp. So there goes my image of Kelsier just eating a bunch of metal balls.
Yeah, he drinks them.
Yeah. Unfortunate. I was sad. Not really. I'm joking here. But he says he'll handle the Inquisitor, and Doxin says, "You're going to try to take him?" And Kelsier shakes his head. "Too dangerous. I'll just divert him. Now get going. We don't want those tails finding the safe house." And they set up their time to meet, and he burns zinc. He reached out and yanked firmly on the Inquisitor's emotions. The creature froze in place, then spun, looking back toward the Canton building. "Let's have a chase now, you and I," Kelsier thought. Thus ends the chapter.
Very exciting ending.
Very exciting. So, tin casts haste. Zinc casts charm person.
Yeah.
Okay.
Burning zinc. He reached out and yanked firmly on the Inquisitor's emotions. So zinc.
That's not. Probably... That doesn't sound calming.
What? Burning zinc? What do you mean it doesn't sound common?
Calming. That doesn't sound very calming. So it might not be charm person. It could be rage or something. I don't know.
Emotion, influencing the emotion, and also he has to do that to get this person's the Inquisitor's attention. He's doing luck, isn't he? In order to get this person, get him to follow him.
Yeah, I mean, he's shining a great big beacon. Look at me. I cast the magic.
I want to ask you, does that make him, is he wanting to make this guy think, oh, he is Vin, come to me? Or is it like, well, I'm way stronger. He'll just follow the strongest one?
That's a good question.
I don't know about good question. It's a question.
It's possible that, the obligators can't necessarily determine who's influencing the emotions, just that someone is. So we don't know whether or not they specifically know that it's Vin who's doing the thing.
Because it stood out to me that he he went on the emotions. Like, it'll be interesting once we know more about the magic. We'll know what he could have done to get the guy's attention as well. In another way. But he it's just interesting to me that he did the same thing the same sort of element, that literally the same sort of element as that she did.
Yeah. Good stuff. I enjoyed the chapter. Did you?
Yes, I did. I enjoyed the pacing, just the intensity of it all. I enjoyed it. Very exciting.
Agree.
It's very hard not to just continue.
Yeah, it's a very fast-paced, moving book. It's still an easy read. It's not a struggle. I'm never bored. I can't wait to keep going. And I think that ends this episode. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in.
Thank you for joining us.
Yes. Go and subscribe over to ThatDarnKitteh. She's got a wonderful channel where she does a panel show on Thursdays and debate diagrams on Tuesdays. And we've got a wonderful Discord, which you can join from her YouTube channel. She has the link in her About section, where she will be uploading at some point the note diagrams that I've been taking.
Dorkus is a diagrammer. Yeah.
Made so by you, Kitty. You have inspired me.
Great.
Yes, I'm infected with the diagram disease. Must diagram everything.
Yes.
Okay,
so there we're done.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.